Welcome back to the Stu Simpson Show podcast, and we're going to turn the tables a little bit differently today. So this is the beginning of season 3, and I've not recently been long back from the Camino De Santiago, and there is a man I hold not solely responsible, but partly responsible for getting me on the Camino. He's a wonderful friend of mine called Dan Jarvis. Hello, Dan. How are you today?
I am good, thank you. And it's nice to be blamed for something good, something positive for once.
No, yes, it was very, very good. So, but like I say, we're gonna turn the tables ever so slightly, and for the first time ever on the Stu Simpson podcast, somebody else is going to ask me the questions.
Yes, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to being in the driving seat of this one. I might as well just get going with it, really, because we are on a limited time with Zoom. So I wanted you to let myself and the listeners know, when did you first hear about the Camino? When did this spark ignite, as it were?
I watched the movie The Way with, what's his name again? Martin Sheen. Yeah, it's about sort of 10-ish years ago. And I thought, oh, that's a wonderful, amazing idea. But the next day, no, that's silly. That's 500 miles. Why would I want to do that? But that was the beginning a long time ago. That's when I thought that might be fun. But then also thought, no, that's crazy.
I mean, I've watched films set, on desert islands, on, amazing waterfalls, great beaches, all of that. But that hasn't really stayed with me for like 10 years, like the Camino did with you. And why do you think it stayed with you, and what made you finally kind of lace up your boots and go and walk it, do you think?
Well, for me, it wasn't about a holiday. It wasn't about going to Spain specifically. It was what I saw in the movie was a transformative effect of a pilgrimage, of a journey that somebody went on who really didn't want to do it. And that's kind of what I felt for myself. It wasn't something I wanted to do. It was something that really called me, and it was kind of like, and actually throughout the pilgrimage up to a certain point, and also beforehand, it was just like, I don't want to do this. I know that I have to do it because it keeps calling me, but I don't want to do it. And so that's what the movie kind of did for me. It was kind of like, right, I want that change. I've reached a very difficult part of my life, and I wasn't in a good place mentally, and I needed something, a catalyst, some form of, I needed change, and that's what that's why the movie stuck with me, I think.
And do you think the Camino draws people with questions, with people needing change, would you say?
Absolutely. I mean, because everybody who I met on my Camino, everybody was asking something, even if they didn't know themselves. Because there was a lot of people, or some people who were quite closed off. You go, I'm just here for a walk, and I'm just a sporty person. I'm like, nobody comes for a 500-mile walk just for fun. I'm sorry, that's rubbish. So every single person I met, I was asking some question or other, whether they knew it or not. And the Camino probably provides a space for people to begin, even if they're not going to get the answers, but provides a space for them to ask the questions.
And I know when you and I first talked about the Camino and your desire to do that, it's fair to say, a few anxieties about traveling and getting there, and what you would meet or face when you set off. Were any of those fears realized?
No. I didn't get lost at all. I was actually, no, I almost got lost. Exactly. I made a really good friend on about day 2, day 3, called Andre. I stopped in Orison because basically in my mind I was like, oh, I'm panicking because of my attention deficit disorder. I'm going to get lost along the way. I've never traveled abroad on my own for a long period, like properly on my own. And I thought I'd get lost on the way to getting to Saint Jean, etc., etc. But it all went swimmingly. I didn't get any blisters. I didn't get lost. I didn't.
No.
It was absolutely. So I did because I was so anxious beforehand. I did so much research, and I stuck to the things which I thought, this is going to help me survive to get. And actually, so Andrew was so amazingly helpful about actually helping me not get lost. because he was German, very, very efficient.
Mm.
But it was great for me because I just met. We didn't walk together constantly. It was like so we'd start the day, and he would I might go on further, or he might attack, but we'd always meet up at the end of the day, and there was only once or twice where we just didn't need to do that. But I kept myself hydrated. I did all the stuff I needed to do with feet. I did yoga. I ate properly. I ate a lot. So I was just, and the most important advice which you give me was that listen to your body, and I was kind of like, okay, and because I saw people pushing hard, and then we ended up catching up with them because they'd pushed too hard or they broke themselves, and it was kind of like, okay, so it was very tortoise and hare. Do you know what I mean?
I know when we spoke as well that I'd advised you to do a bit of training, get used to your gear. I think you did some of that. Do you think that helped you in any way, or was it just a case of I'll just go slow and I won't need to train?
Oh no, it helped me massively. So I did about 3 months. I trained for about the first 2 months without the pack because I didn't have the pack at that point, just to get myself used to walking every day. And I slowly built it up and built it up. And then I got the pack, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's heavy. And that really sort of did other things to different muscles. So I did that for about a month ish, but it really did help. And then I met Andre, and I said, "So what training did you do before you got here?" He's like, "Well, I went to the fridge, and then I opened the fridge, and then I went to the sofa, and I did the same thing over and over again." So
he did suffer at all.
Yes, yes, he did. But after a couple of weeks, he got used to it, and he lost a lot of weight. I was so proud of him, because he did go to lose weight, but by the end of it, he'd lost like 16 pounds or something.
Yeah,
but it was you could see it dropping off him as he was going along the journey. It was really beautiful to watch. Yeah.
So can you maybe describe to me your first day on the Camino, your first time in St. John? You've pushed through all those spheres. You've kind of taken a long journey. You've taken the Eurostar to Paris, then you've taken a train to Bayonne. I know you told me about that. How did you feel did you come in on the train?
No, I came in so there was a replacement bus after Bayonne.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yes. So it was like, oh, and then I had to try and speak to somebody in French, and I had to have no French at all. So I did the whole Google Translate thing, and they're like, oh no, so they just started pointing and saying, so vaguely, I was like, okay, follow the other people with backpacks, basically, and that took me to where the bus was, and I got into Saint Jean, and when I got off the bus, I was like, oh, I'm here. But I was still really I was really anxious, but I was just like, no, just do this at your own pace. It's okay. Be meditative, breathe, calm down. And everybody's walking. Every single person was who was on that bus were going before me, and the only person who was left behind was some old guy who was waiting for a taxi to take him into town. But I was like, no, that's okay. This is my thing. This is my pace. I don't need to. That was the first lesson on the first day. It was like, this is up to you, and you go at your pace. And it made me really very much aware of my attention deficit stuff, and realizing that I'm walking with what is classed as a disability. And I have to not be as harsh on myself, not judge myself as harshly as I have been in the past. So it was amazing that the moment I got to France, I'm already learning lessons about who I am. And then I sort of followed my little Google Maps thing, took me up to Saint Jean, and found the first albergue, which I was booked in, and they were so welcoming. It was amazing. Can't remember the guy's name who I met, but the person who ran the albergue, it was his house. It had a yoga room and a meditation space. There was already somewhere I could just go and I wasn't just thrown in and my head was buzzing. I just had a space to kind of go and go, just breathe, it's fine. And but the paranoia around bed bugs was so I'm checking underneath the things. Okay, so it's like day one. No, it's okay. It's only the first day. so yeah, that was great. And then I just sort of walked around, and people were so friendly and so chatty. Like every single person I knew, because everybody's kind of like in the same boat. It was so exciting. But then a lot of Americans and who were extremely talkative, and very very chatty. And I didn't get eaten by bed bugs. I got eaten by mosquitoes on the first night. So I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
they
insects,
don't
great.
seem to do aircon out there.
Yeah. But interestingly, the guy who ran the albergue, it was about 4 weeks later. I'm walking with Andre, I'm in a thing, and I'm in this bar in the middle of nowhere, and I'm looking at this guy going, I know him, and he's looking at me going, and he just went, Saint Jean. I went, yes. I mean, he went, oh, you're the guy who runs the albergue. And so he decided a few weeks later that he was going to get on his bike and do because he moved there from England years ago. No,
Oh wow.
and and then he just decided to carry on. So that was just to do that because he wanted to do some of the Camino himself. And so it was just like, it was one of those weird, like, oh, well, you do meet people again, but you would also meet the people that you're not expecting to meet again as well.
I mean, you touched on there about what you described as a disability, your ADHD, and that you found time to be able to come away from, decompress, as it were. What would you maybe say to people who have kind of some mental health problems or a disability, maybe anxiety, depression, things like that, who are maybe thinking that, I don't know if the Camino is for me. I don't know if I could cope with the Camino. Obviously, everybody's different, but what would you say to something like that?
I would say listen to your inner voice, and also kind of try and be still, and meditate on it before you make any big decisions. Because what I've taken from the Camino, because I've met a lot of people saying I would recommend the Camino to everybody. I personally wouldn't recommend the Camino to everybody. I know some friends who I go, you couldn't handle this. And I don't mean that in a nasty, negative way. There's some people I just know aren't ready. They're not, because you do have to have a certain level of strength. But what I will say on the back of that is that I was stronger than I ever thought that I was. I was absolutely, because there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of doubt. And then, so if you can feel like some little glimpse of light, or a glimmer of hope, then that might be an indication that you might be a little bit stronger than you think you are, and just hold on to that idea. But definitely, if it's a physical disability, talk to your doctor. But there's with people like with depression and things, I would say that is incredible for your sense of self-worth, sense of self-esteem. And you can work through some of those things. Because of my ADHD, it's a comorbid thing. So depression I've had in the past is because of my ADHD. Because it's, like I say, it's comorbid, and it's quite a complex disability. And over the years, a negative impulse has been put into my brain because of society, because of my upbringing, etc., etc., etc. But having said that, the Camino can really help with that stuff. So it's very much an individual thing. But don't use me saying it's not for everybody as an excuse to not try.
Well, I think with everybody, everyone knows what you'd like to think they know themselves and they know their limits. And it's just, it was more about, I have my fears, and I face my fears every time I go, but my fears are different to your fears. And I was just interested to get your perspective on that.
Yeah.
It's kind of sticking with, fears and things. Did you have, because lots of people talk about the joys of the Camino and it's amazing, and you have a Vino Camino and it's all crazy fun. But what a lot of people don't talk about is the hard days, and those hard days I find make the good days even better.
Yeah.
Did you kind of face any adversity or tough times along the Camino?
Every day. It was in people that even the things when you people that you get close to, and you go, I love them, but they're really annoying me right now, because there's sometimes you just can't get away from people. So there's things that are, and then eventually they do go away, because they always have to, because they have to go back home at some point, and then you go, oh God, I actually, or you get split up at some point, and then you go, oh, I kind of miss them. So there's moments of that because they really do become like family. It's really odd. But like, so we had somebody in the group who was very motherly, but also what comes with that is somebody who can be quite controlling. So then you end up in a kind of situation where you're going, look, I'm a grown person. Do not try and control me. It really annoys me. So there's like moments like that. But then there's the physical stuff. One day I was in Galicia. Galicia is known as the urinal of Spain because it rains so much. And I was just getting
the urinal.
It's one of its nicknames is the urinal of Spain. I don't know if you know.
I thought it's because there's lots of pilgrims winging in bushes and
well, there could be that as well. And there was one day I was just drenched from head to foot, like inside, like all my felt like it was like I was inside and all the way down to my underwear, and it was windy. I was walking over mountains, and I was actually there's a video of me somewhere kind of going, F this, I'm gonna go home, I'm sick of it, I've had enough, I was all very, very, very angry.
The next person who says bring Camino.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, take this pole and you know where you're going to shove it sideways. I ended up actually, I was so, and that's kind of a part of the ADHD stuff is that we react quite viscerally to most situations. And I didn't know this until my diagnosis last year, but we can react quite sort of violently, not towards other people, but sort of inwardly, and be quite dramatic about kind of how we feel about stuff, because I can feel things quite intensely without being able to control the emotional output, whether it's sadness or anger, or it can be quite sort of volatile. But I was on my own, and I had my poles, and I was so annoyed. And I came across this lamppost, and I just started whacking the lamppost with my stick. And it sort of bent one way, so I had to try and bend it back the other way. But anyway, then it got to about 11 o'clock in the morning. I found a bar. My friends turned up eventually, and it was like, I know it's like not even 11, but I'm having a coffee and a brandy, and I don't care anymore.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Exactly. So there are moments like that when you just go, I just can't take anymore. Like pain, physically, mentally, and you just feel like you can't. And then your friend turns up, and you get a little bit drier. You bring up your socks. The brandy starts working, and you're also going, okay, I'll just have a little whinge. Okay, let's go. And then you just keep going, and then you get to your next stop, and it's and you dry your clothes off, and you get changed, and you lie in your bed and go, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? It's yeah. So there are those moments, but then you get the joyous, like you're saying, that the joyous other side of things as well.
So you've talked on and off. You know, we've heard about different people you've met and things like that, which leads me to my question about the Camino family, the famous phrase, the Camino family. What does that phrase mean to you, the Camino family, your Camino family?
It's made me actually a bit teary thinking about it. Because I heard it, and you can't really understand it until you're there. It's a really odd thing, and now I feel as if there's a handful of people that I've met. Andre, Annika, Rebecca, Marta, and Zofia. These are my and Debbie as well. My core people who met on this thing, and certainly myself, Andre, and Marta. There was something extremely special that I would, and on some levels, it's going to sound really stupidly hippie-ish, but I feel like I've met Andre before. I feel like I've met Marta before, but I haven't, obviously not in this lifetime, maybe in some other life or some other galaxy, or maybe I was just meant to meet them. It just feels, you're really bonded together with people through adversity sometimes, but also through fun, and the perception that you have is like, weirdly, in Orison, big table, lots, about 60 people, and I sat next to this German girl, and so the way I deal with my social anxiety is I have a bit of a drink, And then another bit, and then so this girl, oh, hello, I'm Stu, I'm from England. Sorry about Brexit. Jokey, jokey. That went on for about 2 weeks. And then she was just like, hello, I am Marta from Germany. And then there's a big gap, nothing. And she wouldn't say anything. I was just like, she's 20 years old, walking the Camino at 20, and I was just like, okay. So then I turned to somebody else and started talking to them, and we got on. She was lovely, and they were also part of the Camino for a bit, but then her dad died, and she had to go home, and she came back again. But I took a rock for her and her dad. So a whole different story. But I finished in Fistera with Marta, the quiet German girl. We went all the way to the end. We kind of we split up for a bit because she needed some time to do some of it on her own. And then we both met up in Santiago with Andre, and then we finished off to the end. So I actually followed a German like all of the way. So it wasn't just one German to Santiago. Then it was just then Rebecca as well was also German. I don't know why I got on so well with Germans.
Precision engineering.
Yeah, totally. And I'm like the other end of kind of, I am not efficient. So it was a really good balance. It's like I'm kind of this sort of crazy eccentric guy, and I was really balanced out by these people who knew what they wanted, how fast they could go, where they wanted to go, and but not why they were doing it. Interestingly, up to some of them thought they knew why they were doing it, and then kind of got different ideas towards the end. Although Andrea definitely knew, and he definitely did change.
What was I going to say? What do you think? Because you've spoken about. I mean, for me personally, I keep going back, and I know that a big part of it for me that makes it so special is the people. Would you say it's just the people, or is it the infrastructure? Is it the setting? Is it the fact that you're walking through, what is it you said, God's urinal, all these strange, amazing. What do you think makes it so special? What do you think has kept it going all these years, and it's rising and rising in popularity? I mean, from your perspective.
I think what makes it so special is, for me, from my perspective, is what it can do for you, or what are you. It's not what it can do for you. It's also that symbiosis isn't the right word. It's that exchange, that what you can do for it, but also what it can do for you. The Camino gives you what you give it, and vice versa. It's that exchanging of energy, for want of a better terminology. And for me, that was the important thing. It wasn't just because I went there thinking I need where I'm at in my life right now is I need to learn how to be strong as an individual. I need to be strong on my own, and I can get through anything by myself. And by about week 2, was the lesson I learned from that was that, oh, actually, I've never really been alone, and the strength that I've got is all around me. I just have to hold my hand out, and not even ask, somebody will take a hold of my hand and show me the way forward. Somebody will go, there's an arrow over there, or there's a scallop shell, but I'm just using that as an analogy, as a sort of symbol, and that's, to me, that sort of stuff. I think that's one of the reasons why there's miraculous moments like that. That's why people will go for it. I mean, lots of people go for different reasons. I don't think I've met a number of people who keep going back and want to go back again. I don't think at this point right now that I want to go back. It might change in time, but right now I'm at a place where I feel so close to the people that I've met on this journey that I don't want another set of people to change that for me. As I love these people like deeply, and they're a part of me now. They're a part of my heart. They're a part of my soul. I love them dearly, and I don't want anything to spoil those memories. I mean, it was an astonishing thing to do, and I don't, at this point, I'm not going to go back. And your initial question was,
I just got lost. I'll be very honest, you talking about Camino friends has reminded me of, my friendships of saying goodbye to people, this year in, Santiago Square as they walked on to Fistera. And then when I went back, and did the Portuguese, saying goodbye to people. And it's hard. It really is hard. And this was a question I was going to put to you later, but seeing as we're on the topic, I'll ask you about it. I'll pose it as a kind of maybe a controversial question, but do you think we should warn new pilgrims about the very real Camino come down? Should we warn them about how tough it is to reintegrate after, say, a month, 5 weeks of walking?
Yeah, because that never gets talked about. And the last 5 weeks is not 5. The last 2 weeks has been very hard for me. It's been very difficult, and I know that people have been talking to. I think some people can deal with depending on their own, how their brain is and how their mind is and the spiritual practice, or if they have any or not. Some people can deal with it really well. I think Andrew's dealt with coming home quite easily. I've found it really difficult because I mean, I've just like certain things about waking up at home next to my partner going, where am I? And my body's kind of going, okay, why aren't you walking right now? So I've been having
Why is no one snoring in my bedroom and waking me up at 4 a.m.?
Yeah, why isn't anybody annoying me, rustling things, and where's second breakfast? Things like that.
Yeah, the famous second breakfast.
Yeah, so there's but it's been really quite tough. It's only since I had a gig with my band last Saturday that I've been able to kind of sort of readjust into a different version of myself, because I feel like the Camino's changed me, but I'm also kind of going, I'm still Stu. I've still had the experiences I've had before the Camino, but it really, I do think that people should be warned that this will change you, but generally for the better. It's and come to terms with what the change is. I'm still at the beginning of that process, but I was just saying to my partner last night that I'm now I was in Santiago, for example, in the cathedral, and the one thing that just came to my head was like, I am an artist. I was like, okay, and so I was like, that's interesting, because I mean, I've had so many doubts about who I am and what I do, for my living, for want of a better term, it's and in the past, I've run myself into the ground with doing other jobs, and I've never neglected my art and my music and my creativity, but that has came at a cost to my mental health. Yeah. So, and my physical health actually in some ways, because you have to cope in some ways, but so you choose different coping mechanisms to deal with the fact that you will still be up at 4 o'clock in the morning creating, because you've been at work all day doing something you don't want to do, to make some money. And so what the Camino's been a really good thing for me is to go, actually just really go, this is who you are. You are a creative person. This is what you're meant to do. And this is why you want the Camino, to actually just go, you're stronger than you think you are, and you can do whatever it is that you want to do. Just keep going. So yes, people should be warned.
And to talk about, you just mentioned just keep going. Were there ever, obviously when you were smacking the crap out of the pole with your walking sticks, you were in a bit of a tough place, but did you ever think about quitting?
Yes, I did, but I don't think entirely seriously. There was a couple of points I was just kind of like, ugh. But I was so lucky to have Andre there, and because he was I didn't want that was if I had not met him, and if I'd just been on my own, because actually we made a promise quite early on going, we will walk through the gates in Santiago together, we will go through that door together, and having that promise with one other person really helped me kept going, because I wasn't no longer just doing it for me, I was also doing it for him. So having that, so we were there to kind of like really push each other forward, like and support each other mentally and physically. So it was so I might at some point go, I want to quit, but actually went, no, but I can't quit because he's my responsibility, but I'm his responsibility as well. So
Yeah.
it was amazing. That was quite an incredible thing.
And now, just to go a bit left field, how did you get on with the accommodation? Because it can be a real change for some people. I mean, I don't often sleep in a room with like 20 or 30 strangers, and I'd imagine, well, I can't comment on your bedroom setup, but it's very different for people. How did you find it, and how did you make it work for you?
Hate albergues. Hate them. I hate them so much. But yeah, I just got used to the fact that, and also sometimes I'd just go, right, I'm not going to get the sleep that I need. I know with my ADHD stuff, I needed more sleep. There were certain times where I started going, like, I did feel like I was starting to go a bit crazy because not getting the sleep that I needed to. But on days like that, so Andre and I were very lucky in the sense that we were really good with communicating with each other. So it was like, should we find somewhere it's just me and you, or maybe you, me, and Marta, or you, me, and so we're always good at finding it. So sometimes we'd just find a room with 3 people, and the other days where it's kind of like, okay, this one's not too bad. It's only got 20 people. It's okay. We can deal with that. And then but realize it's not going to be a great night. So drink more wine.
That's that age-old one. And were there any places that really stand out in your mind that were special where you stayed? Or just places where no one snored were probably special?
No, actually, there was a kind of hotel-y sort of ish type of place. There was just nobody else in. There was me, Andre, Christina, and Tashi. And at that night, I had basically had a big flat screen TV, bed to myself, Netflix. And that night, Andre made I can't say what decision he made because he's not went through with that decision yet, but it's very exciting. And he made it the decision that night, and that was really beautiful. But for me, what really stood out was a nunnery. It might have been Leon, but I'm not sure.
The nunnery, is that's not, they don't sing with guitars, do they?
No, that was somewhere else. I did stay there, and they didn't like my Stranger Things T-shirt, which said Hellfire Club.
Well, that's in Carrion de los Condes, I think.
That's the one. Yeah, yes, but I did stay there. I hated that place. not the nunnery, but the actual town itself. It felt weird. I don't know why. I just didn't like it. It was the one place I was just like, I don't want to be here. It was really odd.
What did you think to the Mesitas?
I love it. Absolutely. People who kept kind of talking them down said it was really boring. I was like, actually, no. It gave me a space to really think and to really contemplate, and to just sort of going, well, there's nothing challenging other than what's going on in my head. And that's what I'm here for.
Well, they talk about the Camino is broken down into 3 main stages, don't they? So you've got the first major stage, which is the body. Then you've got the mind, which is the Mesitas, which is long and flat, and you're just left with your thoughts. And then, the heart, the soul, when you're getting into Galicia and getting near to Santiago. Did you find that, it's an assault on your body, then your mind, and then your heart as reality draws near?
Absolutely. Everything it said on the tin, basically. It was like, yep, hurts. Ooh, feel better now.
For those who are listening, he's pointing to his legs, his heart, and his noggin.
Yeah, that's the one.
And probably, so we're gonna have to wind this up. We've only got 1 minute 40, is it? Yes.
Yeah.
Would you say it's kind of cost prohibitive, for someone that maybe it doesn't have a lot of cash? Could they get out there? Could they experience it?
So in our little group, Marta, 20-year-old student, me, I'm a folk singer, an artist, and Andre was a salesman for Vodafone. So you got 3 different sets of cash issues. Marta managed to do it a lot cheaper by staying in albergues every time, or donativos, and buying food in supermarkets and cooking in the donativos. Me and Andre went out quite a bit, but we did pilgrim menus and wouldn't sort of do lots of food sometimes. And so, yes, occasionally we treat ourselves. So I think it's available for all budgets, really, for not all, but most.
Great. And this is the last minute. Any final thoughts on the Camino, and anything you'd like to say to the people listening?
If your heart tells you to do it, listen.
Listen. Yeah. Well, and I'd say, to add to your heart, do it. Go for it.
Buen Camino.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for letting us turn the tables and me to interview you. It's been a pleasure.
What's your YouTube channel, quickly?
It's Camino Hacks and Tips. It's something that I'm slowly building.